In the final months of World War II, Japan continued to fearlessly unleash its kamikaze units, fanatical pilots who were ordered to deliberately crash their planes into enemy targets in a desperate attempt to halt the Allied advance. By the war's end, more than 3,800 Japanese had lost their lives in these missions. Yet miraculously, a handful would survive. Among these fortunate few was a teenage naval aviator named Kazu Odachi. Growing up in a small village near Tokyo, Odachi had developed a passion for aviation at a young age, often marveling at the planes taking off from Tokorozawa Air Base, an experience that solidified his ambition to become a pilot. 2 years after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, with the war now in full swing, the then 16-year-old was eager to fight for his nation from the skies. Driven by this singular focus, Odachi entered the Yokurin, a highly selective preliminary training program with a pass rate of 1 per 80 applicants. Inducted into the first cohort of cadets, he attended the new Special B-Class course at Iwakuni Naval Base in the spring of 1943. With growing urgency to replace frontline losses, his training was soon accelerated, and by January of 1944, Odachi was sent to Ota to learn how to pilot the A6M-0 Model 32. By mid-August of 1944, he was dispatched to Hasinchu Air Base in Taiwan with the 221st Naval Air Group, where he would continue training before flying his first operational mission, escorting supply ships through the Xiamen Channel. During the Battle of Leyte Gulf in October of 1944, the Japanese forces concentrated all efforts on halting the American advance. It was here that Odachi first witnessed the launch of kamikaze missions, including the one led by Lieutenant Yukio Seki on the morning of October 25, 1944, which was marked as Japan's first successful kamikaze attack. By January of 1945, the American advance through the Philippines was progressing towards the Clark Air Base system. By this time, daily bombing strikes had depleted much of the Japanese military resources. With little to no chance of holding the area, the majority of pilots were dispatched to North Luzon. Following the destruction of numerous aircraft, several airmen also departed on foot, leaving behind those who had succumbed to malaria and other illnesses at Clark Field, with Odachi being one of them. After seeking refuge in the nearby mountains, Odachi and his group received word that all surviving airmen were to be evacuated to Taiwan, and on the night of February 2, 1945, under the cover of darkness, he and around 20 others were extracted from the area. On April 4, 1945, Odachi would carry out his first kamikaze mission. He was assigned to pilot a Zero fighter, armed with a 500-kilogram bomb, taking off from Ishigaki Air Base, with orders to strike Allied aircraft carriers recently spotted by reconnaissance plane. Though before he could reach his target, his aircraft was intercepted by American fighters, forcing him to release the bomb into the ocean and abort his attack. In the coming months, Odachi was ordered to carry out many more kamikaze missions, but against all odds, he would survive each one. Time and again, poor weather, mechanical issues, and early interception by American aircraft kept him from reaching his targets, sparing his life with each aborted attempt. On August 15, 1945, he prepared to carry out what would have been his 8th kamikaze mission, with the directive of inflicting maximum damage on American supply ships stationed off Okinawa. As one of 30 Zero fighters lined up on the runway at Yilan Airfield, he began to push his throttle forward when a member of the ground crew ran out in front of the planes and directed the pilots to shut off their aircraft and abort the mission. Confused, Odachi made his way to the command post, where he learned over the radio that Emperor Hirohito had just announced Japan's unconditional surrender, bringing the war to a close. After returning to Japan in late 1945, Odachi stepped off the train at Nishi Tokorozawa Station on New Year's Eve, at the very same platform he had departed from 3 years earlier, when he had left for flight training alongside two of his closest friends, Kinzu Kosuya and Hiroshi Toyoda. Toyoda had fallen in combat over Manila in February of 1945, after being shot down while intercepting a B-24 bomber, while Kazuya had met his end on May 5th, 1945, in a deliberate mid-air collision with a B-29 over Takeda City. Having made it through the war against all odds, Odachi struggled with survivor's guilt, and kept his role as a kamikaze pilot a secret, even from his own family. In post-war Japan, he would become a police officer and detective, serving for over 36 years. Throughout his life, he also remained a devoted practitioner of kendo, a martial art he had studied since youth. For over 3 decades, he would teach kendo to children, passing on the discipline to future generations. As the many decades passed, and societal views of the war began to shift, Odachi slowly began to open up about his past, sharing fragments of his story with a small group of trusted friends, including fellow kendo practitioners, whom he had known for over 20 years. Eventually, Odachi would document his experiences, which were later published in a book titled Memoirs of a Kamikaze, which served in part as a tribute to the friends he had lost during the war.